Joining us now, Sheriff David Clarke. Now, we love Sheriff Clarke because we had him on after the midterms, and I've stolen his line. Sheriff, I got to tell you, I've stolen your line. I'm a thief. I admit it. But you had the best line of the campaign midterm analysis, which, and I've said it 100 times, which was, I'm sick and tired of the happy talk coming out of the RNC. I want to see a result. I want to see, like, mail-in ballots come in, and the Democrats don't get 82% of it. Joining us now, Sheriff David Clarke is the former sheriff of Milwaukee. He's also a senior advisor with America First Policies. Sheriff Clarke, great to have you, man.
John, it's my pleasure. And again, hello to your listeners.
So you're so right about what happened in the midterms. But let's get to the caravan, right? So where's the fake newsers now, right? The caravan, 1,000 of the caravan members have been given 1-year work visas by the Mexican government, so they stay there. 2,000 of them have legally applied for asylum while staying on the other side of the border, the legal way, which is the way they're supposed to do it. So they're going through the application process, which is through a law. 2,000 of them have applied for repatriation to go back home. And some others are still trying to scale the wall because the makeshift wall is there. They're not able to get in. Wouldn't you call this a tremendous success from President Trump?
It's unbelievable, but it's not surprising. It's not surprising to me anyway. I knew he was going to win on this early on. He was out front of it from the beginning. He staged the resources, gave the Border Patrol the resources they needed and the authority they needed to defend the border and keep themselves safe. And he made it very clear with the leaders of Honduras and Guatemala and Mexico, he was not going to blink in this thing. He was not going to blink in the face of the American left, the Democrats, who wanted to make Mexico's problem, Honduras' problem, Guatemala's problem, Donald Trump's problem. He did not allow them to do that.
So why, of course, the last big fake news report at the border with the caravan was centered on the tear gas that was released to disperse the mob, right? By the way, same tear gas that the Obama administration released numerous times. Of course, that went unreported. And, of course, the photo op with the mother and the child, which represent about 10% of the caravan running away. Why no coverage now?
Well, you know why there's no coverage. I know you're asking it rhetorically, but look, this president, Donald Trump, is not doing anything that his predecessors have done, and not a peep from the media, not a peep from the liberal media, I should say, not a peep from the Democrat Party, and not a peep from the federal courts and the people who like to run the federal court every time President Trump sneezes in the morning. So, you know, you look at this and how he's played this thing. He understands that this is chess, and the president, one of the greatest skills that he has, I believe, and it's a great trait for leadership, is the ability to anticipate. He anticipates things well before anybody else does. He sees things that others do not see, and then he starts to put together a plan, a counter plan sometimes, but a plan to deal with the situation. So one of the things that he understands too, and it's amazing, not to me, but it still is a little bit amazing that a man who hasn't been in politics his whole life, like a lot of these other blowhards out there who have ran on stuff, promised that they'd move the embassy to Tel Aviv and all these other things, promised to defend the border and end illegal immigration, and they never did it. This is a man who says what he means, and he means what he says. But one of the things that a leader has to do as well, in terms of ability to anticipate when you're in Washington, D.C., is you have to win the politics. He was going to win on the policy of illegal immigration. It polls well for him. Nearly 70% of people want something done, want that southern border defended. They want something done to fix this broken immigration system. They want an end to illegal immigration. So he's going to win on the policy, but you have to win on the politics. And because he had his resources staged and marshaled, and he had a plan of attack to deal with this, and you know what? At a time when he was running around the country campaigning in order to save the United States Senate. Think of this. The ability of this man to do several things at one time and to do them well, I think, is uncanny.
Look, Sheriff David Clarke, you absolutely sum this up. When you look at the president's policy here, let's just get to the wall, right? So he brings in 5,000 troops, many of them part of the Army Corps of Engineers. And what they do, Sheriff, is they construct basically a makeshift wall at some of the flash points where the caravan was coming, the invasion was coming in, Tijuana being one of them. And now you see people trying to scale the wall. It's not easy to do, and it's been a huge deterrent. For the people who say a wall doesn't work, why don't they just take a picture of that and look at how that's been such a deterrent, and it's only makeshift? I mean, it's not really what the grand plan is. Why aren't the senators outraged about the fact there's no wall instead of Jamal Khashoggi or whatever their fake outrage was yesterday?
Yeah, the reason is because many of these individuals, including some GOP people on Capitol Hill, they don't want a wall. All right, these are anti-Trumpers. You know, I can't put this squarely on the Democrats. I put a big part of it on the Democrats on the Hill, but there are some anti-Trumpers, some never-Trumpers on the GOP side, and they plain and simply don't want a wall. So, you know, they put up all this nonsense, this propaganda, these myths. You know, a wall won't work. The hell a wall won't work. The $25 billion estimate that I've heard that the president needs to build a wall to fortify our southern border pales in comparison to the amount of money spent on illegal immigration in the United States in terms of many of these individuals. I saw a figure about 63% end up on some sort of welfare program that they never come off of. You look at our public, we end up paying the cost of that. You look at our schools and other social and public services that can't afford this influx of another country's ne'er-do-well. So, you know, $25 billion for a wall, and that's a lot of money. And it seems, you know, when you say that to people, well, that's a lot of money. I heard a figure the other day that it costs $250 billion a year to deal with illegal immigration in terms of what they bring and what they add on to this, the public services that we have here in the United States. And just do the math, you know, 10 times more. If we just built the wall, you know, that would end a lot of it. It's not going to end everything, but I'll tell you what, it would make life easier for the Border Patrol as well.
You're so right. I tell you what, the caravan and what the Army Corps of Engineers did is the perfect proof that we need a wall, and yet, of course, you know, the fake news doesn't report it or say anything about it. We're with America's Sheriff, Sheriff David Clarke, formerly Sheriff of Milwaukee County, former Democrat. You can get more information. Go to americasheriff.com, americasheriff.com, and sign up for his newsletter there and get all the neat stuff from America's Sheriff David Clarke. He's also a senior advisor to American First Policies, which is the #1 political action committee for supporting President Trump's America First agenda. You can get more information there by going to americafirstpolicies.org. Sheriff Clarke, let's get to the fake outrage we got yesterday by the senators, Lindsey Graham. And I give Rand Paul a pass here because Paul has been saying with me for a 2-year period that we need to get out of the war in Yemen, get out of backing the Saudi Emirates coalition there because it's been a complete disaster. So he's been saying it. He's been consistent. But all of a sudden we got these neocons and warmongers like Graham running around saying, well, now we heard from the CIA, MBS was involved in Khashoggi's death. Okay, tell me something I don't know. Now all this fake outrage about we need to get out of the war in Yemen. Let me ask you this. Did it take a murder of Jamal Khashoggi to, like, get Graham and Corker and Menendez now figure out that our involvement in the war in Yemen has been a disaster? Is this fake outrage, or is it just me?
No, it's fake outrage. Look, I can't believe that people like Lindsey Graham and people who are supposedly on our side, I always say supposedly, would make a hero out of this Khashoggi guy. Look, what happened to him, I'm not advocating for, and I'm not saying that was right. But the fact is, this guy had links to the Muslim Brotherhood. He was a thorn in the side of the Saudi government. That doesn't mean they should have killed him, but at the same time, that guy's no hero. And he's not worth changing the United States policy in the Middle East of keeping Saudi Arabia as an ally, for heaven's sakes. The minute we stop supporting the Saudi kingdom, China and Russia and Iran will move in. Probably not Iran; they're an enemy of Saudi Arabia, but China and Russia will move in. They'll supply them, and then we lose that ally, and we lose one of the few, other than Israel, allies that we have in the Middle East, and will alter the balance for a very long time. We saw how that could be a disaster in Syria. The United States under Obama and his failed foreign policy, Syria wasn't an ally, but at the same time, they offer some stability in the Middle East against Iran and some of these other ventures. And as soon as the United States created a vacuum by backing away, the Russians moved in to Syria, Iran moved into Syria, and look what happened there. So it's really a matter, and your listeners know this, you know this, you have to pick your poison in the Middle East. There aren't any good guys other than Israel. There are no, a lot of people in the Middle East, these countries, these nations, these rulers, dictators, whatever, they have blood on their hands. There's no doubt about that. But that's the nature of that region of the world, and you can't have a naive view, which this president does not have. I'm glad that he stood strong. I'm glad that he was very clear that we are going to remain an ally of Saudi Arabia. He didn't waffle. He didn't say a red line in the sand, like Obama did with Syria, and then back off. And that's what people look for in leadership. You might not agree with the decisions, but for heaven's sakes, you want the leader to be decisive.
Exactly. I mean, you summed the whole thing up. And I think the president in the Khashoggi affair, Sheriff Clarke, has been spot on the whole time. I mean, he has basically separated out the $450 billion potential investment of the Saudi sovereign fund and the buying of our weaponry as a transaction, a ledger on a spreadsheet that he says, look, either we're going to get the potential $450 billion, they haven't spent it now. The letter of memorandum, either we're going to get it or the Chinese are going to get it or Moscow's going to get it or somebody else is going to get it. So that's a transaction. That's a business deal. I'm not an ideologue where I can't separate. I'm a business guy. I can separate that out. So I'm going to put this over here. I still want the money because it's in our best interest investing in the USA. Don't care where the money comes from. Secondly, he said, look, my relationship and the relationship of the United States and KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is strategically important as the buffer to Iranian aggression and for the other interests that we have. I also want them to keep down the price of oil so gas prices come down. So there's a relationship there. And he's separating that from Mohammed bin Salman, who most of us believe actually engineered that assassination of Jamal Khashoggi. But the president's saying, look, there's a lot of bad actors out there. They have to figure out whether or not they want the guy to stay in charge. I don't know if he did it. I don't know if he did. He didn't. Either way, whatever, I'm going to go forward. I mean, why is this so difficult for the fake news media to grasp?
For politics, pure politics, any way to attack this president, Donald Trump, any chance they get, they will do it. Now, all of a sudden, the leftist media, the liberal media, has become, big fans of certain parts of the Middle East that they had no use for before. So the president, like you said, John, you have to separate the politics from the policy, and that's what he's doing here. It is not worth risking the foothold of influence, anyway, in the Middle East, and it's a small one anyway. With Iran, like I said, there's no good guys here. But it's not worth risking that over Khashoggi, for heaven's sakes. It's just not worth it. And the president also knows he's going to take arrows for this sort of thing. But that's another trait of leadership. You're going to take arrows and you're going to get blamed. You're going to get attacked for any decision you make. But you have to be willing to endure that. We did not get that out of the former president, Barack Obama. He always took a pass. He always punted. He always split the baby, so to speak, instead of being decisive in that region of the world, instead of making decisions in the best interest of the United States. People can criticize President Trump if they want to on the decisions he makes. That's fine. That's what goes along with the territory. But we have somebody who understands it, who understands that region. And that's kind of amazing, too, that, when he came in, all these blowhards, he's from National Review and the Weekly Standard and all these supposed conservative outlets, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. His foreign policy is going to be a disaster. No, his foreign policy, the president, has been brilliant. It's been spot on. He understands this is chess, not checkers. He thinks this through. He listens to his advisors, and then he makes the decision.
I mean, that's the way he rolls, right? He's doing a great job, and I think the way he's handled Khashoggi is spot on. Sheriff David Clarke, we're out of time. Thanks for being with us. Sheriff David Clarke, more information, americasheriff.com, online, americasheriff.com.